Mr. Speaker, will you please call the House to order?
The House will come to order. In the absence of clergy, let us pause for a moment of silence. Visitors are invited to join the members in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. A quorum being present, the clerk will read the Journal of Monday, April 4th. Mr. Morelli.
Mr. Speaker, I move to dispense with a further reading of the Journal of Monday, April 4th, and that the same stand approved.
Without objection, so ordered. Mr. Morelli.
Yes, sir. I'll give our schedule of the day in just a moment. Before I do that, let me just note a few historic facts from April 5th throughout the years. For instance, on this day in 1792, President George Washington cast the first presidential veto. It was against a congressional bill which introduced a new plan for dividing seats in the House of Representatives. On this day in 1768, the first Chamber of Commerce in the United States was founded. It was the New York City Chamber of Commerce, New York always leading the way. And on this day in 1984, New York City native Kareem Abdul-Jabbar became the all-time NBA regular season leading scorer when he broke Wilt Chamberlain's record of 31,419 points. That's a lot of points, and we'll score several this afternoon, probably not 31,000. However, Mr. Speaker, let me briefly describe our schedule for the day. Members have on their desks a main calendar. After any introductions and housekeeping, we will continue work today on that calendar, and I'll give calendar numbers in just a few moments when we begin. That's our general outline for the day, so hopefully we'll get to it. Members will cast their votes quickly, and we'll move our business along this afternoon. So if there's any introductions and housekeeping, this will be the time to take it up, sir.
Certainly, Mr. Morelli. A bit of housekeeping first. On a motion by Ms. Rosenthal, page 8, calendar number 32, bill number 437, amendments are received and adopted. And for the purposes of an introduction, Ms. Russell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to introduce and acknowledge a very important group that's joining us today in the chambers. I'm pleased to welcome the American Parkinson's Disease Association. We are joined by their president and CEO, Leslie Chambers, as well as board members, Mario Esposito and Thomas Pennant. We are also joined by people who are currently living with Parkinson's disease, their dedicated care partners, and many others who care deeply about the fight against this disease. The American Parkinson's Disease Association is the country's largest grassroots organization focused on helping people living with Parkinson's and has been a funding partner in most major Parkinson's disease scientific breakthroughs in the last 50 years. And I think since we began our session today, about every 9 minutes someone is diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. And so it's a staggering statistics. Those that are here today are also not only here to talk about the disease and the need to do further research to find a cure, they're also here because we will be passing a resolution here today declaring April as Parkinson's Disease Awareness Month to further bring awareness to this cause. I have sponsored this resolution every year since 2012. I have a very active group in my area that has been working to raise awareness and to provide support within the community that I represent. And last year, we had boxing legend Muhammad Ali's daughter, Rashida Ali, come to Watertown, New York for our first annual Parkinson's Disease Walk and Dinner that was co-hosted by one of our larger healthcare organizations, Samaritan Summit Village. This is a very important issue. I think all of us recognize that while there have been advances in technology that can allow us to understand what goes on inside of our heads, that it still is, to a great extent, kind of an unknown black box still. And this organization is working to find a cure for their disease, but the research that they do also oftentimes sheds light on the causes and potential cures for other neurological diseases. So I truly appreciate them traveling all this way today to talk about the disease and bring awareness and to help us celebrate in the passage of this resolution. And I would ask you, Mr. Speaker, if you would be so kind as to extend to them the cordialities and privileges of the House. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Russell. Ms. Malliotakis on the same subject.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also rise to welcome this wonderful group, mostly from Staten Island and Brooklyn. I'm very fortunate to have the headquarters for the American Parkinson's Disease Association in my district, and we're very glad to have them here in Albany with us today. They're a wonderful organization, and I'm glad they were able to make the journey here to see us adopt the resolution for Awareness Month. But they really do tremendous work, and they are located in the little community of Staten Island, but they represent 1 million people nationwide. And as was mentioned, every few minutes someone is diagnosed. In fact, 60,000 individuals annually are diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. And so we want to support them as much as we can to ensure that they find a cure and they help ease the burden of those who are currently suffering. So please, I also join in welcoming them, and if you could please extend them the cordialities of the House.
Thank you. Mr. Cusick on the same subject.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also want to commend the sponsor of the resolution, and I also want to welcome the American Parkinson's Disease Association here today. As my colleague mentioned, many are from Staten Island. It is an organization that is home on Staten Island, and many of the board members are Staten Islanders, and I know we have students from Susan Wagner High School who are part of this group. I want to just point out, I know Mario Esposito Jr. is part of this group, and the Esposito family played a key role in this organization, being on Staten Island. And as someone who had a grandparent who suffered with Parkinson's, this is a disease that all of us here are invested in to help this organization in providing cures for Parkinson. And it's my pleasure to welcome them here today. And please, Mr. Speaker, if you would offer them the cordialities of the House.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Titone.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I, too, rise to welcome our esteemed guest today to Albany. When we talk about Mario Esposito, I just had to press my button to speak very briefly about Mario. For those of you who knew Mario, and I'm sure many of you here did know Mario, and I see Mario Jr. there, he was our former county clerk on Staten Island, but he was, in stature, he was pretty short, but in determination, I should say, he was very, very big, and he really helped move this organization to where it is today. And, to the point how proud I am having Mr. Esposito was a very dear friend of our families. And to hear, my colleague from the North Country talking about this organization, which helps the folks in her district, for me, it's a very proud moment, not only for Staten Island, but for Mario Esposito, and I'm sure this is a very proud moment for Mario Jr. that's here. So, Mr. Speaker, would you kindly please welcome this esteemed group?
Certainly. On behalf of Ms. Russell, Ms. Malliotakis, Mr. Cusick, Mr. Titone, the Speaker, and all the members, we welcome you here to the New York State Assembly. We extend to you the privileges of the floor. We commend you on the work that you do to help individuals who suffer from this disease. We know that that is the essence of what we believe in this state, taking care of each other. Thank you so very much, and continue your great work. Ms. Warner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and my colleagues for allowing me to make an introduction this afternoon. We are joined in the chamber today by a group from Loving Education at Home, which is a statewide organization dedicated to supporting and promoting home education throughout New York. LEA is a Christian organization bringing together like-minded Christian home education support groups made up of families dedicated to observing the biblical command to teach your children well. This organization supports Christian home education support groups throughout New York by providing legislative, judicial, and administrative advocacy services, as well as by sharing home education materials with member families, publishing a state newsletter, and planning an annual state home education convention. I'm proud to represent the legislative liaisons to the New York State LEA who are here with us in the chamber today. Michael and Carolyn Bailey live in the village of Hudson Falls in Washington County and are a regular presence here in the Capitol as they advocate on behalf of all LEA members for bills and policies that support homeschooled students and homeschooling families. Over 400 LEA members from around the state have been here in Albany for the last 2 days, meeting with members, and I hope many of you have had the opportunity to meet with your own homeschooling constituents, as I have, about issues that matter to them. I was fortunate enough to meet with the Sears family here today, who are from Hartford, New York, in the heart of Washington County. Joel Sears and his sons Joshua, Caleb, Micah, and Samuel, who they tell me are very into science this year. So, Mr. Speaker, I hope that you will welcome them and offer them the cordialities of the House.
Certainly. On behalf of Ms. Warner, the Speaker, and all the members, we welcome you here to the New York State Assembly. We extend to you the privileges of the floor. I know we had the opportunity to greet some of you earlier this week. Hopefully you've had a great trip here to Albany and will continue to pursue that which makes your family strong. Thank you so very much. Ms. Fahey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today for a quick introduction of a young woman who is a constituent of mine and taking a terrific interest in government and politics. She is a freshman, Sophie LaForest, and she is a freshman at Bethlehem High School, one of our local high schools here. As only a freshman, and yet she's been to a couple of my different events, community coffees, to learn more about government, and has shadowed me in my office all day. And I just, it's great to see somebody so young, she can't even vote yet still paying attention to all of these issues. And I just rise to ask if you could extend her the cordialities of the House.
Certainly. On behalf of Ms. Fahey, the Speaker, and all the members, we welcome you here to the New York State Assembly. We also extend the privileges of the floor to you. Hope that you have had a great experience in shadowing Ms. Fahey today, and that you will continue to have that interest in government and the pursuit of what is good for the common. Thank you so very much.
Watch out, Pat. She'll run against you.
One or two more issues of housekeeping. On a motion by Mr. Hevesy, page 13, calendar number 120, bill number 2636A. Amendments are received and adopted. On a motion by Mr. Engelbright, page 22, calendar number 217, bill number 5612. Amendments are received and adopted. Mr. Morelli.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If we could go to page 3 of the main calendar, we're going to begin our work with Assembly Resolution 1168 by Ms. Russell.
Clerk will read.
Resolution number 1168, Ms. Russell. Legislative resolution memorializing Governor Andrew M. Cuomo to proclaim April 2016 as Parkinson's Disease Awareness Month in the state of New York.
On the resolution, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The resolution is adopted.
Resolution number 1169, Mr. Ortiz. Legislative resolution memorializing Governor Andrew M. Cuomo to proclaim April 2016 as Distracted Driving Month in the state of New York.
On the resolution, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The resolution is adopted. Mr. Morelli.
Yes, sir. If I mind, I'd like to give the next three bills that I'd like us to take up in this order, beginning with calendar number 282 on page 28 by Mr. Gottfried, followed by Rules Report 21 on page 4 by Mr. McDonald, and in this group, calendar number 6 on page 5 by Mr. Thiel.
Clerk will read.
Assembly 7351A, calendar number 282. Mr. Gottfried, an act to amend the public health law.
Read the last section.
This act shall take effect on the 180th day.
Clerk will record the vote. Mr. Morelli.
Yes, sir. This is our first vote of the day. Members should be casting their votes, and those who are near the chamber should make their way in so they might cast their first vote of the day.
First vote of the day, members. Come in and cast your vote. Are there any other votes? Announce the results.
Ayes 126, noes 0.
The bill is passed. Mr. Morelli.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker, for allowing a brief interruption for the purposes of an introduction. My apologies. Over in the far corner, next to Ms. Simon, is a former law student of our colleague, Ms. Simon, Alex Burke. Alex works with the Equal Justice Works. She's a fellow and represents New Yorkers across the state who are transitioning in their health care from one insurance to another and who have chronic diseases. She is currently considering relocating or is going to be relocating to the capital region, so took a little time out to come and visit her former law professor and to spend a little time observing the legislature in action. If you'd please extend the warm cordiality of the House to Ms. Burke, I'd be very appreciative.
On behalf of Ms. Simon, the Speaker, and all the members, we welcome you here to the New York State Assembly, extend to you the privileges of the floor, welcome you to Albany, and hope that you will have a successful and productive career here. Thank you very much. Clerk will read.
Assembly 9639, Rules Report Number 21. Mr. McDonald, an act to amend the Public Buildings Law.
An explanation is requested. Mr. McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill requires the disclosure of the names and residential addresses of the natural persons who are members, managers.
Hold on, Mr. McDonald. If members would take their seats, you wouldn't be the cause of mirth if you were sitting down. Proceed, sir.
As I was saying, this will require the disclosure of names and residential addresses of natural persons who are members, managers, or other authorized persons of an LLC when such LLC executes a lease agreement in which the state of New York is a tenant.
Mr. Corwin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the sponsor yield?
Will you yield, Mr. McDonald?
Yes, I will.
Sponsor yields.
Thank you, John. Yeah, just a couple questions since this is a new bill. Is there a particular concern or problem that we're trying to address here? Because it seems like it's very narrow in scope.
No particular concern. I think, as you know, LLCs, although they're a very important vehicle to conduct business, not only in the state but in this country, has garnered a lot of suspicion at times, which is unfortunate. At the same token, when we're talking about government leases, we're really talking about taxpayer dollars. And I think this speaks to a greater transparency in that aspect.
I see. And this is specific to the Office of General Services, which handles procurement as well. Does the bill require disclosure for procurement contracts as well?
This bill is focused solely on tenant leases of the state of New York with LLCs.
Okay. Since the purpose is for disclosure and transparency, does it make sense to do this kind of thing with other agencies, other state agencies?
Well, we're primarily starting off with the large book of business that OGS has. There are some exemption, as you might know. State Police, SUNY, and some of the patient program units within the Department of Mental Hygiene are not within that book of business.
I see. Okay. And when we're talking about LLCs, obviously sometimes you have situations where there will be LLCs that are persons within an LLC. Does the bill to what extent does the bill require digging into those names?
Probably, I think the important names to remember here, or not names, but the important phrase to remember, it's right down to the natural person. So you're right, there's an LLC within an LLC. This gets right down to any person involved within those LLCs in regards to the lease agreement.
Okay, and what is the hope by deriving this information? And we're putting personal addresses, making that available as well?
It's names and residential addresses, yes.
Okay. Is there any concern that the people involved, because, I mean, they're not doing anything illegal or unethical, the concern having their residence?
1 minute, Ms. Cohen. Ladies and gentlemen, we're on debate. Whatever the conversations are, if you have to have conversations, take them out of the chamber. The individuals who are discussing this don't need to compete with you. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My concern here is you're talking about taking individuals' personal addresses and making them public. And, I mean, it's not like they did anything wrong. They're not a public servant. You know, they don't have to abide by the same rules we do as public servants. Is there a concern maybe that we're opening them up to some sort of criticism or problems?
You know, that's a valid concern. I think we have to balance it once again to my original intent of this bill. Government leases, and as a former mayor, we highly sought after having developers attract leases in our community because we're in the capital region. They're very competitive. They also can be very valuable and very lucrative. And therefore, if you're going to engage in that type of business with the state, there's nothing wrong with that. We want people involved. I think the degree of transparency, especially in light of a lot of suspicions that are out there, would make everything more transparent and open for everybody.
I see. And if it were a C Corp or an S Corp engaged in the same kind of lease, does this bill require the shareholders and their residents to be listed?
This bill does not speak to the corporations or the C Corps.
Okay, or the S Corp.
Sorry.
So it's lucrative enough to an LLC that we have to publish their names and residences, but not so much for if it's an S Corp or a C Corp.
Many times the names and addresses of those involved with corporations can be much more easily attained. The LLCs not so much. But the reality is what is the driving force behind this is the majority of the state leases are with LLCs.
I see. Okay. Well, thank you, John, for your answers. On the bill, Mr. Speaker?
On the bill, Ms. Corwin.
When I first read this bill, I didn't think there was anything too much to it, but then after discussions with some colleagues, when you look a little bit closer at it, I think we are engaging in some privacy concerns here. Certainly, I could see perhaps listing the individual's names, but listing their personal residences, I think, opens them up for possible problems in situations where they aren't doing anything wrong. They're part of an LLC. It's a perfectly legal corporate status, and engaging in a lease is a perfectly legal operation. In fact, I would say that in many cases it's beneficial to the state. So I'm just not sure what the value or benefit is by having their addresses listed. Also keeping in mind that, in my mind, that would be a discouragement to someone engaging in that kind of a lease arrangement as part of an LLC. So I think it could have a dampening effect on business. So for that reason, I would encourage a no vote on this bill.
Read the last section.
This act shall take effect immediately.
Clerk will record the vote. What's up, bro? How are you? I'm good. You all right? Yeah. Enjoy, my friend. Enjoy. Can I like ask? Can you break them up? Nick the two. Can you spread them around something? Yeah. Yeah. No, we're right in the middle. Put them on the corner somewhere. Nick's another record thing that whatever he's got on his mind, it's the most important thing in the moment. To encourage him. Yes, I think that's the same. I believe he's been with him